Welcome to this month's episode with Ellis. I'm so excited. This is the School of Bravery podcast. So every month we feature a guest expert who has experience in this month's theme of bravery, the ingredients of bravery. We do one ingredient of bravery every month, and this month's ingredient is constraints, which is underneath the main ingredient of, I have them all listed here, imagination. So just as a recap, there are these three main ingredients of bravery. The first is vulnerability, the second is imagination, and the third is improvisation. So this month we're diving into imagination. And in order to have an awesome imagination, you also are dealing with the realities of the constraints in your real life. So it's not just fairies and fluffy stuff when we're talking about doing brave things. So I asked Ellis, who is a fellow songwriter, brilliant songwriter, to come and tell us all about her story, and then also specifically dive into what it's like to work as a creative with ADHD. And still have a very prolific, very successful, in my opinion, very successful career as a songwriter. So thank you for joining us, Ellis. I cannot hear you right now. So
no.
Oh, there, I can hear you now. There, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Let me move this even closer.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for joining us. This is going to be, I'm excited about this conversation. So yeah.
Me too. Me too.
So tell me what projects you're working on right now before we dive into like the backstory. We'll just go into present first.
Sure. Well, I've got a personal project that I'm working on and a professional project I'm working on. The personal project is more tied to my own understanding of racial justice and my own personal connection to what it is to be a white person, a white-bodied person. And for me, that is reading a lot, connecting with a group every week about that topic, and that is consuming some of my time and energy. And then the other project is professional, and that is more tied to my music career directly, and that is making my 10th record. And I'm in the studio right now, off and on. Right now I have some decisions to make about mixing before we add some other elements. And so I feel like I'm really right in the middle of that project.
We just went through that process with my next album. And I had to set the final mixing tweaks before we get it all mastered. So it's fun to be at that stage, but it's also kind of feels like what I imagine. I haven't ever birthed a child, but I imagine that it feels like the last 3 hours of labor.
Well, gosh, I'm not even there yet. I feel like this process is I've got, my basics down, my vocals, guitar down. I've got some strings added. I've got some piano added. And so those are the things that are there right now. We're missing bass, we're missing guitar, we're missing, but I do have background vocals in there too. And so what I'm doing right now is going to clear away a lot of the extra stuff before I bring in other musicians, because I want to really see what I have. And right now it's just too much, and I don't want to, at the end of the mixing road, be like, oh, shoot, it's just, I like to mix as I go along so that I know I've already made decisions. You know what I mean? There's already stuff that I'm not going to reconsider, because otherwise it just takes too long.
Right.
So, and maybe I'll just pull everything off, because the songs, hopefully they're strong enough to stand on their own,
Yeah. Well, do you mix and do the engineering yourself, or are you going into a studio?
Oh, heck no.
Okay.
Are you kidding, Emily? Oh my gosh. Let those people who know how to do it, do it. That's my philosophy.
Good.
I hire.
Well, so just as a background for you guys, I met Ellis at Song School in Lyons, Colorado, which is it's like a week-long, 4-ish days, where 200-ish songwriters come out and learn from awesome people like Ellis. So Ellis was teaching a class on, you see, taught several classes that I have attended over the years. But there was one thing you did different this year, which you presented us with this book, My Grandmother's Hands, which has been blowing my mind. Like even in the first page, I had goosebumps and was like on the verge of tears. And so it's like that the entire book for me. And I am slowly going through it because it's so emotionally intense. So how would you describe this book?
Well, I would describe it as a work in progress, and really the key that was missing for me in terms of my understanding of what racial justice looks like for myself personally, not so much the actions that I'm taking in the world, but how am I really looking at this mind, this body, how, it really ties to my spiritual practice, which is Vipassana practice in Buddhism, just this idea that I'm Buddhist. And I love this idea that underlying everything, my personal life, my professional life, is one hope, inspiration, goal, which is freedom. I'm interested in freedom for myself and for others. May all beings be free. That is my greatest wish. Mm-hmm. And me included. And so all my songs really come from that place. So just wanting to express, wanting to be clear, wanting to touch something real and true and unguarded and unhindered, really, and so for me, My Grandmother's Hands really provides a link for healing, a link for freedom, whether or not in this lifetime I'm able to be free of the body reactions when I'm around Black people, when I think about my historical genes, DNA, and its connection to colonialism, mm-hmm. how the stuff that comes up for me emotionally, the defensiveness, the sadness, the pain, the judgment, it's all of that is connected to the mind and the body. The body was here as a result of many, 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 many bodies, and this mind has been created by not only the cells that make up my brain and my parents and their histories, but also the culture I've been raised in, and we've been raised, all of us, and are continuing to be in a white supremacist structure, where racial justice isn't about, just being, against people being mean to Black people. It's really about the structure.
It's the whole us versus them worldview. And that is not really helping anything or anyone. Well, it's helping some people do what they think that they want to do or need to be doing. But I think that if you feel like you have been any part of, or even if you feel like you haven't been part of racism or ethnically diverse communities, then you need to read this book. Like, I think everyone should read this book. And you said that this summer, you were like, everyone needs to read this book. And I absolutely agree.
Well, and the reason why is because it's so helpful, because as a white person, I really can get caught up in, but I'm a good person. Mm-hmm. Right. But I'm not intentionally my whole thing is non-harm. Mm-hmm. The reason why I'm a Buddhist, I really am interested in non-harm. I'm interested in freedom for all beings. Right. So that means I'm a good person. Right. So that means that I can't be racist. Right. Because I can't act, I'm not part of the, but the thing is, like, no, unfortunately, we live in a system that is harming people. And in general, white people can't see it because white people benefit from the system. And so we don't see, I don't see, the ways that I am being benefited, and others are being harmed. And so it's about, for me, doing my homework to understand the system and the harm. And also Resma's book helps me to understand what I can do and what I can't do. And what I can do is understand that we're all in this together, like you said, that healing is a collective thing and it's a personal thing. So I can work on this body and mind, this imperfect body and mind, and understand that the healing process is clunky, it's painful, and I'm not in it alone. And Black bodies, police bodies, I love that he talks about blue bodies in the book too. Just kind of making the umbrella of white, Black, brown, blue bodies makes it so less personal. It's not about Ellis being a good or bad person, or this white person being a good or bad person. It's all of us together being in this and I think of it like a collective human body, our society. And how are we caring for our bigger body, And as a songwriter, hopefully I'm putting a lot of love and a lot of care out there in the world. Hopefully I'm adding, something good to our bloodstream, and I want to be aware. I want to be aware of the ways that I might be causing harm and not being aware of it. I want to be clear, where are the roots of suffering? And I believe that my suffering and my happiness is tied to your suffering and your happiness. That we're, cohabitating, commingling in our energetic field. And all of us are connected that way. So I can do my own personal healing work with a whole bunch of white people and not interface with, my Black friends about this work. Not because I don't want to, but because I know they're doing their work too in their own way. You know what I mean? And I don't have to, one of the things that is really encouraged in our society is for white folks, and I know I do this. So what I'm referencing when I say that is that I can really look to the Black people in my life to approve of me, to help me know that I'm a good person because I'm their friend, and that's poison. I would say it's a large harm, but it's a small harm in our friendship. And so what I'm realizing is that, like, for me, oh yeah, responsibility. I mean, there was a quote that I found in this book that I'm reading that I just love. It's all about questions. It says, blame keeps us stuck in the past. Responsibility paves the way for a better future. Mm-hmm. So I want to take responsibility for everything I can in my life, in my healing work, in the way I relate to others. So this is just a part, this racial justice work is just a part of that relationship.
Yeah. Well, and it definitely ties to running a business or being a business owner. Yeah. Because as a business owner, you're putting yourself out there. So either services, products, goods, whatever. You're putting yourself out there, your products, your services out there into a world where racism exists. And if you put yourself out there in a way that either demeans or leaves out a group of people unintentionally or intentionally, you're affecting the rest of the world and that racism. There's been a couple, I've seen it happen where like somebody who, I'll give a specific instance. So Danielle Laporte is a like self-help writer, author. I actually recommend her Desire Map workbook and book. It's a little on the woo-woo side, but it's good. However, this last year, she released a new product that, unbeknownst to her, I truly believe this was completely innocent, unbeknownst to her, had some visual branding images related to the KKK. And there were so many people that were offended and for obvious reasons. And she's also, contextually, she's in Canada, where I believe racism still exists, but it's not as of a hot topic because of they run their policing a little bit differently, I imagine. And so all that to say, I watched her do something very innocent, and then respond to that innocent oops with so much ignorance. And it was completely avoidable, by just being a business owner who has only white people on her staff. No one was able to vet that product branding. No one was able to go, are you sure you want to do this? And so I think as business owners, we can really make great strides to improve our world by not only releasing awesome products and wonderful pieces of creative work, but we can also hire people to help us keep grounded and sane and have a full rainbow spectrum of what's actually happening in the real world. And that maybe that's hiring the right people. Maybe that's creating for yourself a wider board of advisors for yourself as a business owner. Yeah, all that to say, it definitely is a business thing, even though it's also a very personal, very physical thing, which I really appreciated from this book, that they go for just physically, how is it that you feel somatically in your body when you encounter racism? What does it physically feel like?
It's interesting because I've been doing a lot of personal trauma work. I have some baby trauma, from when I was a little one, and that still is in my body and still comes out. And so I've been working with a trauma therapist who is about the body, like a somatic, an SE, somatic experiencing person. And that's Resma is trained in SE. And so the thing that's really fun for me anyway was that I was already doing the work with SE when I came into contact with his book and understanding, oh my gosh, yeah, trauma is trauma. Like, pain is pain, suffering is suffering. The more we connect to what's really here in this body and mind, the more we can see where the suffering is. And the more, hopefully with community, we can create healing. And the way he talks about it is metabolize the stuff, metabolize the stuff, that the pain, having clean pain, crying as a release, as a way to really come to more peace, I think, more freedom to move. Like I want to feel, closer to the world around me. I want to feel closer, more intimate to myself. I want to have a relationship with my fans and my friends that is undefended, and I think a part of that undefendedness is really getting in touch with the ways I hide from myself. One of the ways I hide from myself is pretending like I'm not affected by our white supremacist structure, pretending like, and not even intentionally pretending, but doing the thing that we're all taught to do, which is, reading my white history books, that mostly talk about white people, listening to mostly white artists, reading mostly white poetry, you know what I mean? Like it's just very understandable that we're in the situation that we're in. It's understandable, but there still is the body truth that's in there, that's like knows that there's a lie happening, that knows I'm missing, and also truthfully, I'm missing out. Like when I read Andre Lorde, you know what I mean? Like when there are Black artists out there that change my life, and I haven't, as a child, I want my daughter to be able to benefit from the all of the people out there making art, being philosophers, all of the people out there. And, it's just to think that there's such a large group of people that haven't been acknowledged by and are becoming more acknowledged, I think, hopefully, even though the situation is pretty tense and sometimes toxic right now. I have a lot of hope that we're in a waking up period, and that there are a lot of strengths that are being uncovered, and a lot of leaders that are being uncovered on the ground level, who have this embodied understanding, that we're suffering, and it's okay to be suffering, and it's okay because we're human, and human beings are complicated, and oh my gosh, like we the whole thing is traumatic. I mean, we're born and we get older, and then we lose everyone we love, and we ultimately die. How that sucks. That is a serious problem.
It really is. It really is.
Oh my gosh.
And
no wonder we want to just go to the movies and have a happy ending.
Exactly. And before we started recording, I was telling you about how I see my clients and other people in my audience who are doing, supremely brave things, and they're struggling, and they're making it harder than it already is. Like, life and living and being a human here is already pretty hard. Yeah. So what I love about you and your work is that you are also trying to make it easier for your audience, just like I am for mine as well. So I really admire that about you and your career. So thank you for doing that.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. To me, it's a whole thing. It's not a business as
No.
much as it's a life journey.
Oh yeah.
And I'm participating. I'm so lucky to have fans and folks that are interested in being along the journey with me and helping me financially, as the music industry is shifting and changing, and as we're all trying to figure it out. And, as, even for me as an artist, like how some of this healing work I'm doing, I don't know how to talk about it yet. I don't know how to write about it yet. Sometimes my writing is confused. And so, that it takes time to metabolize, and to really then say something that feels truthful, that feels authentic and full of love, and what is love, and for me, truth before love, but truth is tricky, right? Because what is true, and what is true for me may not be quite true for you. So, I'm trying to figure out what here is, what is happening here? And I just really appreciate that my work is all a part of my spiritual practice and my growth practice as a human being. It's a really wonderful way to live. And I feel a lot of appreciation for it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully folks feel like they get something out of it.
Well, I know that they do. They do, because I have seen how your audience responds to you when you are on the stage. And that is a very huge indicator that you are successful, is watching people lean forward and see them like wipe tears from their eyes and do the things that physical bodies do when they're fully engaged in something. So know that I see that happening. I see that happening. Oh. So, physically, you are, well, we're going to shift gears, because one of the things that I know that you deal with amidst all of this that we're already talking about is that your body has, how would you describe the way it feels to have ADHD? And honestly, I'm sure that would be a really difficult question, because that's all you know, I imagine. But
well, I have a partner who is very not ADHD, which is great for my life, because I think it's much more functional to have a brain that really has systems and ways of doing things that is, logically ordered. I think the way that my brain works, I have to do a lot of preparation in order to function, basically. I mean, I spend a lot of time figuring out what are the things that I need to do today. How do I prioritize? Prioritizing is difficult because, things all have the equal amount of importance. Taking out the trash is equally as important as doing my weekly hotline. I have a weekly hotline.
What is this weekly hotline?
Well, it's called the Right on Time hotline. And basically and I think it it comes from, and maybe we can talk about this in the next segment, but
Yeah.
it comes from having trauma in my childhood, which I think caused ADHD to happen in my brain. It was a coping mechanism. It was a way to freeze, shut down, or flee, fight, flight, freeze. These are all body reactions to danger, and so I think what happens in my brain is that often I get triggered throughout the day for minor things, that I don't even recognize because I'm so used to it happening all the time. But what will happen is my brain will shut off. Like I will flip my lid literally. So the only thing active is my reactive reptilian part of my brain, which is I'm learning how things I can do, physical things I can do to bring that frontal cortex back down. Like I can stomp my feet if I can do things to come into the moment to help my brain get more clear when I feel foggy. Usually that's a sign that something has tripped me up. And it could be a very small thing, such as, forgetting to put the boiled thing that was on the stove and, on the front porch, which is our extra freezer because I'm in Minnesota, you know, you know what I mean? It could be like silly things, but anyway, so all that's to say,
yes, the hotline.
Really quick. So this is a perfect example of what an ADHD brain does right here in this moment with you. Like I'm jumping around a little bit, but I'm trying very hard to stay focused with you, right? Because I want this to be successful for you and for me. But
I watched you trail off. I was like, yep, we're going to tie this back in. We're going to tie this back in.
This is why I'm a songwriter who works for themselves. But anyway, and so, but the hotline is really about loving, because I have really struggled for many, many years to understand that and to really truly believe that I am worthy, that I really belong here on this planet without having to do something to earn it. There's really been a feeling for me that's been very strong. And my art, my music has saved my life, literally. Like being able to play my music and have people say, I see you, I love what you're doing, I feel that, I'm connected to that, has literally saved my life. Because it's helped me understand I'm not alone and I'm not by myself. But there's really been this underlying feeling of and you talk about belonging, a little bit in your book, there's been this underlying looking for places to belong, but also secretly believing that there's something I have to do to earn my spot. And I haven't done it yet. And I'm realizing more and more that's a lie. It's just not true. And as a matter of fact, like there is something called inherent worth, that we are all inherently worthy. And so, like you also talked in your book, Emily, about the brain and about the stuff that I forget what it's called, but the stuff that coats when you practice a new behavior or a new thought over and over again.
Oh my gosh. Now I can't remember.
It's
myelin.
Yes, myelin. Yes. You can train your brain. I can train my brain. So for the last year, it's been almost a year. I think I started in January, making the Right on Time hotline, which is using my extra cell phone because I got an upgrade, and I kept my my older iPhone, which is still very usable, and I created another number. And every week on Monday, and I'm going to do it after this meeting here with you, I make a new hotline message, and I offer it for folks to be able to call in and just listen to an uplifting message of truth, which is that we are all inherently worthy. And I just have a new spin on it every week. I just talk about it, but it's for the dual purpose of me retraining my brain. I have a commitment every week to talk about it. And more, I am starting to believe that I am inherently worthy, even though it's shaky. It is shaky, but it's so true. It's obviously true. When I look at a baby, I don't ask a baby to be something more than they are. I'm not like looking at a baby being like, baby, you will need to be more of a baby. You know what I mean? Like, right. I don't expect that baby to be anything. other than itself. I'm admiring its beauty. I mean, oh, who is this baby? You know, oh, look at you. You have these, oh, what color are your eyes going to be? What color is your hair? What, you know, who are you going to become? What are you going to be interested in? You know what I mean? Like, and as children grow up and develop, like somehow, somewhere along the way, we start expecting them to be something. You know, and I think our society really encourages it. So even if we don't have trauma, we're still very much encouraged to look outside of ourselves for approval, you know, for this, to belong, you know, to be good enough. Mm-hmm. And I just, I'm really interested in stepping outside of that story, you know, for my own health and well-being, and then for my art too. So I can really be, the clarity, you know, offer clear and loving and truthful art to the world that's beautiful, you know, that matters, you know, and it makes a difference for others and for myself. And, you know, that is clean, you know, isn't like try, you know, I really know now that that's the thing that I need more than other people's approval or, you know, whatever greater success thing. It's like that will never fill the part of me that still is wanting to be affirmed that I have a right to be here on the planet. Right. You know, it's like I have to find that for myself. I have to really know that every life is precious. This life is precious, you know? And so that work is a part of my practice and my art, and, you know, in the hotline, which I can, you know, give you the number.
I love that. I love that you've created a system. I'm all about systems. I love that you've created a system to hold yourself accountable to the personal growth, your personal growth, but also how you've tied that into connecting with your audience as well. And using that, and basically you're inviting your audience to hold you accountable to the personal growth that you know you need in order to be a better artist. So it's this like reciprocal relationship of accountability and growth and accountability and growth. And so that's beautiful.
Community, man.
Oh yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. So when, let me ask you this, what are some of the challenges that you encounter either directly as a result of ADHD, or challenges that you constraints that you have as an artist now?
I think keeping my interest, like really finding ways to support the things I have to do for my job, so that I can be successful completing the things I have to do for my job. So meaning like, for me, returning emails, you know, I have had a trouble doing that because in part ADD, also prioritizing the emails and figuring out, like, so I've had to create a system for prioritizing emails, a list. Terry, my partner. So this is what's helpful about having a partner who's very logical and who has steps. So ADHD, part of the problem is you missing steps, not having, you know, like I think, okay, I'm going to make a record, or better example, and this is the one I use in the workshop all the time, is like, how do you know if you're ADHD, or what do you know, tell an ADHD or ADD person to write a paper. They think, okay, write a paper. Okay, I'm going to write a paper. You know, you tell a person who has their frontal cortex on. That's why I just think it's just, you know, having the ability to think clearly, to write a paper. They think, oh yeah, I got to make an outline. I got to go to the library and do some research. I got to figure out what my opening sentence is, my opening paragraph is. I got to figure out, okay, what am I saying, and say it. And then you write the content, you figure out, and then there's a structure, there's a way, there's a roadmap basically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So with ADHD, the roadmap isn't automatic. It's not there. As a matter of fact, like oftentimes I don't even know that I need a roadmap. So that causes lots of problems. Like I can start cooking a meal and not realize that I need a recipe or I'm missing something because I didn't think through what I needed before I started it. Kind of, that's an example. Yeah. An everyday example.
Well, and I will say this, that I know that lack of is project management, really, like the lack of understanding what project management is often one of the things that causes the most overwhelm for creatives. So because we go, oh, I'm going to write a song,
right?
Sit down and you write a song, and then like the weight of, am I going to get a Grammy starts pulling you down. You know what I mean?
Well, first of all, you have to really work hard to get one of those.
Totally.
Like it's political.
But it's not just as simple as writing a song that, I got a Grammy, right? Yeah. But sometimes when we sit down as creatives, we have the emotional baggage of our work coming to the table with us. We have the voices of criticism coming to the table with us. And then if we don't have the structure and the system of, this is how I write a song in these very small, tiny steps laid out before us, then all of those voices start bleeding into our thought patterns, and we can't think straight, and we give up and we go walk the dog instead. So it's not just an ADHD thing. I also see it as being like, it's human.
Yeah, it's human. And I think even as we are, and it normalizes my experience quite a bit to hear, not only right now to hear you saying that, but also to know that that's true for a lot of people who are functionally doing well in our society because they've set up systems for themselves to help them catch the things they miss. Right. So I think that's a huge part of my job right now in my life is continually figuring out where my deficits are, and then having the clarity, the courage, and the willingness, like letting go of my pride around being able to do something and to really acknowledge, no, actually I need help with this. I really, and part of that is like leaning on my partner sometimes, asking her for help with something, but doing everything I can before I ask her for help. And then, leaning on some friends. I've got a business person she's actually just a friend, but she owns her own business too. And we get together and work together. So I know that in order to do emails, it's not only about understanding which emails come first. It's not only about prioritizing, but it's also about, sitting down at the computer for a long period of time. I'm just really not into it. Like I just want to be outside, or I want to be playing my guitar. Even playing guitar, I have to like put my strap on and walk around the house. Like I can't sit still for a super long period of time unless I'm meditating, which is a specific thing.
It's an act, but it's an activity.
It is. It's like I'm still very busy in my mind trying to see what's happening, and it's all very interesting, right? Because it's all over the place.
Right. So let's do this. I want to hop over and start talking specifically about some of the ADHD specific things, but it sounds like your answer to working within constraints is to understand those constraints further and then to ask for help.
Yep.
Yeah. Which makes it's simple. It's beautiful and simple and hard sometimes.
Well, it's hard sometimes to recognize the thing, with another piece for me is just that worthiness piece, or that willingness to, remembering inherent worth is also when I am having a deficiency of some kind where I don't see what I'm missing, what steps I'm missing. I don't understand, like, well, how do I call my care provider for this if I lost my password and I can hit password reset, but they're like, oh my God, passwords. Okay. Anyway, and I know everybody has that experience, but like whatever it is that I'm getting stuck on or I'm getting anxious about. See, I totally forgot what you said. What was the question?
No, it was really just a statement that like, working within constraints is not a solo thing all the time. Sometimes you just have to ask for help. Sometimes that help is just simply accountability.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
And also what you said earlier about overwhelm, it really just to understand that overwhelm or the judgment that I have around overwhelm, when those thoughts start to come up and I recognize them, to really celebrate the recognition of the judgment thoughts or of the overwhelm, because now I know I'm missing information. And so now I know I can call my friend Diana, who is my business person. I'm overwhelmed. I don't understand why. We can kind of talk it through. And I do the same thing for her, although it's different for her because she's not ADHD, but she does work for herself and she's alone a lot. And so it's really nice to have another human being to connect with, and also then to get together and have times where we're quiet together at our computers, but we're having a relational experience. So it's like, I'm not just alone at the computer. I actually have a person, a human being with me, and we're relationship building. This is,
right.
We're connecting, community.
Well, this has been so awesome to chat about all of this. You and I could talk about this stuff for days and days and days and days.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you're looking at the clock, because that's another thing with ADHD. It's like, what is time? It's party. It's just,
it is. Sometimes I think that people who have people whose brains work differently than other people's brains, they are unicorns. They are magical, because what you're doing is you're reminding me, let's just use time as an accordion. It is an accordion. Like, time is also this construct that we've made up to make sense of what's happening in front of our faces. So,
right. The universe doesn't know what time it is or care.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Only it's a clock.
Exactly. Exactly. But we need people like that in the world. So to come full circle.
Yeah. Accountability, relationally, we need time.
Exactly. We need time. But to come full circle is like, it's really a gift to be yourself. And even if that means you are different from the rest of the world. And there it is.
Got to use tools.
Just got to use tools.
Yep. You got to know what tools you need and use them.
Mm-hmm.
For me, timers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll hop over in a second to talk about all that. So if you are not a student of the School of Bravery, then you can, enrollment starts at $25 a month. So, and at that $25 level, you get access to the entire guest expert library of trainings. And then you also get 2 monthly master classes. So this month we're talking about constraints, and next month we'll be talking about a different subject, that kind of thing. All of it's around bravery and being creative in life and business, and courageous in life and business and your career. So we'd love to have you a part of it if you are not yet a student. And there's other options too, but I'll let you guys go check out all of that. And that info is all at schoolofbravery.com. And then you can go check out Ellis and all of her music on all of the places where you would listen to music. Go follow her on Spotify, go check her out on Patreon, go support her and her work, and listen to the hotline stuff. Is the hotline available for everyone or just?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's 612.
Is it on your website? Is it on your website?
Oh, I got it right here. I'm gonna look it up really quick. It is on my website. But anyway, let's see. Hotline. Yes, here we go. It's 612-998-2355. So 612-998-2355.
So give that number a call and you'll get Ellis's message for the week, her hotline message for the week. And then go check out your website too. What is your website?
It's ellis-music.com or ellisdelaney.com. Mm-hmm. So either one works.
Cool. That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And let's go talk about ADHD over here in this other conversation. And we will see you guys. We'll see you guys later. Bye.